Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Oh shoot. Concrete, you still there? Well, hi everybody. I'm here with Concrete Rose and you're listening to the breakdown. What's going on,
Hey,
people?
peoples. As you guys see the title of the show, we got an interesting one tonight. Danny, you want to wait a few minutes and see if we're going to have a few more people join us, or you just want to hop right in?
Let's just hop right in. Let's do what we do.
All right, one second. Let me get to my notes then, and we'll hop on in.
Okay. Look at
Okay,
Mr.
so
RJ talking mess in the chat already, Chad.
he wastes no time, I see. Um, we're going to be talking about people who are chronically single. So, what we mean by people who are chronically single, people who are been single for extended periods of time or have, maybe in various situationships, but they tend to be single 9 times out of 10. So, there is a new positivity movement that's been that's kind of making its way through social media, and the movement is called, it's basically derives from a self partnership. There was a young lady, I think her name's Emma Watson. She was talking about her singleness, and she said she doesn't consider herself to be single. She's self partnered. And I just think that it is another way in which, these liberal ideologies are kind of invading not just millennials, but like everybody's being impacted by some of these crazy liberal ideologies that are out here. um, I did do a bit of research, and I'm sorry, give me one quick second because I don't want to have any feedback in my background.
Okay. Cute. So you said it's black female fuckery, huh? Yeah, we figured we'd start off early and explain why some people are chronically single.
So, and don't limit it to black females, Q, because there are some men in these internet streets that are also chronically single. So it's not strictly limited to women. So don't leave out the brothers either. However, just to kind of further my explanation a little bit in reference to this whole self-partnered movement, it's supposed to be a positivity movement. So it's a, I can't even say it with a straight face. It's a single positivity movement. So it's putting a positive spin on singleness. It's in order to, but they're kind of combating that idea that single women are at home lonely with a bunch of cats running around, and it's supposed to be promoting self-love and dating yourself and things of that nature. And me personally, I have nothing against that. I think that there's something to be said about people who can be happy while single. I mean, personally, be when I was single, like I was content. I was fine being single. However, I still did have a desire for companionship. I didn't want to be single for the rest of my life. And I think that this self-partnered movement is kind of promoting that mindset. They during my research, I found this is like the twilight zone to me. People desire companionship. Like, we're not meant to be alone. But in my findings, I saw that they would use terms like, you enjoy your gift of singleness, or they would say, they use a lot of terms regarding your independence as a woman, and they're self-sustaining, and it's my choice to be single. And a lot of this liberal language that they were using that has a feminist tone to it, to me, to be completely honest. It was a little bit, it was laughable to me, to be I'm not even going to beat around the bush. It was laughable to me. But go ahead, you chime in, Danny.
So I guess when I look at chronically single people and when people, okay, well, let's just break down the single by choice. So when a person say that they're single by choice, I actually call bullshit on it because if they found the right person, I feel like they would settle down with the right person if they had the choice. Like if the person wanted to be with them and it was a great person, I think that most people would go as opposed to saying that I'm single by choice. I just kind of feel like that's some BS. Do
I
you
do
think
too, for
people can?
sure.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to ask you, did you feel like people could be single by choice? But then let me tell
Now,
you something.
hmm
When I talk to married women, since I've never been married before, when I talk to married women are always like, girl, you got it made. You don't have to do that, 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 that. You have it made. And they look at me with such
oh my god.
admiration. And I'm like, girl, I have to pay all my bills by myself. I ain't got
I think the
nobody
grass
to lay with me.
always seems greener on the other side, though. Especially if you've been married for a long time, you kind of forget what it is to be single and how hard it is out here. I think
Yeah.
the grass always seems greener on the other side because how many times do we hear married men say that too? That they envy men who are single, or they warn men against marrying. Oh, don't do it. Don't give up your freedom, and all that type of foolishness that they say. So I think, to me, the grass always looks greener on the other side. I've never been married, but I was with my ex for over 14 years, and um, I prefer being in a relationship. Like, I don't feel like it was better with me being single. I mean, it was definitely like dating was not a super easy process, but I did enjoy like my solitude. And because I had been in a relationship from the time that I was so young, I enjoyed it was almost like a rediscovery of who I am as a person. So there were some things that I enjoyed, but I would much rather personally be in a relationship than be single out in these streets, child.
Yeah, it's real out here nowadays.
Hmm.
It's very real out here. But do you really think that it's hard to find the right kind of person when you're trying to date these days?
I think, well, it depends on well, I feel like we live in like a hookup culture. So a lot of people aren't necessarily looking to be in a relationship. But what I've discovered is that's not just men, it's women too. They don't necessarily, they're not necessarily, excuse me, I'm sorry, looking to be in a relationship. So for a person who wants a relationship, a person who's not chronically single by choice, which I think that applies to most people who are quote unquote chronically single. But I think it could be difficult. Not only is it difficult, it can be taxing. And I'm going to give some personal examples in a minute as to why I speak to that. But I do have to say, before I became single, I was like scared, like super scared to be single because I had heard all of these horror stories about it. And my experience was not that of my friends and, the people in my circle. So it wasn't as bad for me. But, I know people who've been single for over a decade. Like, I know some chronically single people. And the thing about it is that single by choice, I call, mess on that too, because um, most of the people that I know who are single, they say that they're happy in their singleness, but they're always actively dating. Do you think that's hypocritical? Like, if you're single by choice, is it okay to still be dating? Does that just mean that you don't desire a relationship, but you still desire? I mean, do
I
you think
think
that
it's
that's
possible. I kind of feel like it's possible to, if you're still getting ass and you're still getting the companionship, so to speak, especially with men, because I know men will say they like to be single, but a lot of them enter into like situationships, and then women do too. And so I kind of feel like the situationships ruin a lot of people, especially women. And so when women go through situationships, and I'm saying for women, when women go through situationships, it's usually more damaging to her self-esteem. And,
mm,
the fact that a lot of them will accept situationships over a relationship, it just says to me. But some say they're happy like
yeah?
that. Do you really believe that they're
Well,
happy?
now I know women. who I have a pretty, I have a pretty fair size sister circle, or circle of females that I consider friends, from just different walks of life. And I know women, a few, who have very active dating lives, but they're not fulfilled. Like, I feel like there's some fake fulfillment. Like they have this faux fulfillment where they act like, oh, I'm cool. I don't necessarily need a man, this, that, and the other. But the reason that their dating lives are so active is because they are searching for something. And a lot of times, or not a lot of times, but sometimes what they're searching for doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Because they're searching for a modicum of perfection when they're not perfect themselves.
Yeah, I really feel like that's a big problem. Have you ever heard of Rebecca Lynn Pope?
I've heard Obsidian mention her, but who is she?
Okay, I want to say she's a dating coach, but I remember a video. Well, she used to be a matchmaker. And so
Mm-hmm.
when she said she had to stop matchmaking because women's expectations and standards were way too high, and they wouldn't necessarily, they couldn't really require certain things from men because they weren't able to provide themselves. So it'd be like, big girl, she probably makes a lot of money. She keeps herself up, but she wants a 6'2", chiseled chest,
Mm-hmm.
12-inch,
Mm-hmm.
guy who makes over
Mm-hmm.
$200,000 a year. And those, I'm not going to say that that's impossible, but it's definitely not the norm, so to speak. But
Yeah.
I think she was talking even more to like the attitudes, to what they were requiring. And she said that a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
men kind of had a lot of high expectations too. But I kind of feel like, the more money a man makes,
Yeah.
I be thinking that, these men can't get women just because they make money. But then at the same
Mm.
token,
Now, I
we
do
see a
think the
lot of
more
different.
money a man makes, the more marketable he is. But in addition, it doesn't work like that for a woman. A woman, if she can be. There was a lady, and I can't think of her name. She was from England, and she had like the most beautiful voice. She sang like she was an opera singer, but she looked very homely and like an old school church marm. Like, even if they offered her $1 million record deal, she could find somebody, but men aren't going to be beating her door down because she has money, because she's not an attractive woman. Whereas a woman cannot have $2 to her name, but if she's beautiful and she has this body of a goddess, she can get like a man from any walk of life, for the most part.
Well, I also feel like a lot of women, when we tell black men that we're educated and we're smart, and a lot of them, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal because I would have thought, most men would want a nice educated woman, and
Yeah.
um, for her to be smart, or, for her to have goals. But, in these spaces, I've kind of figured that most men figure that if a woman says she's educated, 9 times out of 10, she's in debt. Um,
Mm,
and then if she's been
yeah.
single for a while, it's kind of hard to get back into the swing of things, especially after the women have been in a bunch of situationships, or just
Mm-hmm.
kind of riding the dick carousel, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now,
I
that's
don't
a good
know.
point. You said two things. Now, I think that I didn't realize how unimpressed men are by a woman's degrees and her accolades until I came into spaces where candid conversations were had. I did. There was a once upon a time I did think that as a woman, if you have a degree, you have your stuff together, you have a great career, that you would be more marketable. But from what I hear from a lot of men, they could care less. You know what I mean? Like, they don't care, that they're not impressed by that. They don't care. So that you did bring up that point. And then in reference to like women who are going through a lot of situationships, I I wonder, like, I do want to see if we have a little bit of time, because I want to hear from some of the fellas. I wonder how men look at that, because for me that would be a red flag. If I'm a single woman and I meet a man and he says I've been single for 10 years and he's in his 40s, and this, I know people like this, he has no relationship experience to speak of. he's only like dated, but he's never been in a serious relationship, never lived with anybody. He's 50 years old. Um, that's a red flag for me. Like,
It would
I
be
would
a red
probably run
flag
the
for me
other.
too.
But I
Almost
wonder if men think like that. To me, even if a guy does think like that, if she got a big booty, then it don't really matter. You know what I mean? Like, all of that is
this is
going out the
facts
window.
though. This is facts.
You
This is
know, I mean, I'm
facts.
just saying, you know. So we'll have to let the brothers chime in on that and see what they think. Um,
Do you want to drop
but
the link?
yeah, we can drop the link, and I'm gonna bring up one point while you're doing that. I do think that this whole self-partnered movement prevents people from looking inward regarding their own issues, because I think that it speaks to your character when you can be with someone who's nothing like you, or if they are just like you. Your ability to compromise in a relationship with another person speaks to your character. And that's why it's a red flag for me for a man who has not had that. I would think either he has commitment issues and or he has an issue with compromising in a relationship. And that's important. Any relationship that you enter into is going to require a certain level of compromise. So if you know, are just celebrating your singleness and you're in this whole positivity movement, with which there's nothing wrong with being single, and we're not saying that. But what I am saying is that there's some falsehoods that are being spread about singleness. And, you know, I don't want people to ignore something that may be like underlying as it relates to a person who's chronically single and or has no, like, as an adult, you should have some relationship experience to speak of. And I guess I am biased because I've literally been in relationships since I was a very young girl. Like, I've always been in relationships. But you know, I want, because of that, I want somebody who has relationship experience too.